I'm delighted to be joined today by Georgia Francis. Georgia is a recent graduate of International Tourism Management, and she got her first. But like many other young people at the moment, it's been a worrying few months during the pandemic as they've had to navigate and think about what the future holds for them and their careers. So I'm really pleased that Georgia's agreed to talk to us today and share with us some of her experiences and some of the tips that she might be able to pass on to future graduates and people who are currently in the same position as her. So Georgia, let's go back to the beginning of the year. It was January 2020. We'd heard about a little flu bug that was going around in China, didn't really think about it. And you were close to finishing your tourism degree. So at that point, what were you thinking your future was going to hold?
So I was expecting to complete a summer internship at a company in marketing media company in Plymouth. And then in September, go back to TUI where I did my placement year and return as a product planning assistant. So that was my plan back in January.
And then of course it all went a bit wrong and went into lockdown. So at that point, when did you start to sort of think about reevaluating, or were you still hoping that things would pan out?
So around the same time we went into lockdown, I found out that my graduate job wasn't still available. And I suspected that the summer internship wouldn't be either. So I felt really lost because I kind of had this plan that had been in place for the past year and I knew what I wanted to do and kind of where I was going, and suddenly it was all kind of pulled out from under my feet and I didn't have a plan B because I knew that I wanted to go into tourism and that's what I'd studied, it's what I'd done my placement year in. So yeah, around that time I was feeling very lost with what did I want to do, where was I going to go next?
Okay, so it was a worrying time. Then, of course, what we were seeing was that tourism was being particularly badly affected from the get-go, and we had no idea when the pandemic was going to finish and what the future was going to hold. So did you start reevaluating things about and worrying, had you done the right degree, thinking about what you could do as instead?
So I never really questioned whether I'd done the right degree because I actually studied tourism at A-level and I knew that it's what I was really interested in. It was what I enjoyed. So I definitely do not regret studying tourism at all. But I definitely think it would have been a good idea to have kind of diversified my knowledge and looked at other options, because for me it was, I would like to work in tourism. What are my options in tourism up until that point? Whereas I think it would have been better if maybe I had considered, you know, jobs outside the industry as well. But obviously no one could have known what was going to happen. And for me, it was that I was just really passionate about travel and tourism, and that's where I wanted to go. So I was kind of doing everything I could to get there. But in hindsight, which is a nice thing to have, I probably should have considered, you know, some broader or some other options, maybe have a backup plan or something.
It's difficult because, you know, one thing that is really key in you know, pre-COVID is the fact that we know we need lots of young talent in our industry. So it's never been a question of not having the positions available. It's more a question of making sure you understand how many positions there are available. And I think what's really tough at the moment, particularly for us as a sector, is that we know we'll come back. We know we will bounce back. So we need to try and stay engaged with talent like yourself to say, we may not have the jobs available for you now, but we will. And it's about trying to keep you enthused about your career aspirations, but also being realistic that you may need to look elsewhere at the time. So I know you've done quite a lot in terms of getting yourself out there. So perhaps you could explain to us kind of the things that you've done over the last few months to keep yourself engaged, but also to look elsewhere and think about your backup plans.
Yeah, so my biggest thing has probably been taking any opportunities that have come up, whether it be a webinar or, you know, someone has contacted me on LinkedIn with a internship opportunity, which over the summer I volunteered for a startup called We All Need a Holiday as their social media marketing advisor, and that was initiated all through LinkedIn. And, you know, making connections with people still in the industry, but also maybe in roles that are a bit more transferable, like marketing, because you can go into marketing and progress in one industry and then transfer over to another one. And I've also set up my own, well, I started an Instagram blog back in July called Starlight Social Media. And I kind of realized that lots of small businesses were turning to social media and, you know, digital tools to boost their business and help them through when they were closed, or, you know, increase their sales. And I have experience and the skills and knowledge that those small businesses could do with. A lot of them I found they kind of get on social media and then don't really know where to go from there. So I set up Starlight Social Media to share my knowledge with them. And I think that's a great takeaway, actually, is to create your own opportunities if there aren't really many opportunities out there. Even if you can't become self-employed or set up your own business, there are lots of things you can do to get your own experience and, you know, improve your knowledge yourself.
I know that you've attended Future You events, haven't you, Georgia, whilst you were at uni? And I'm hoping that some of the takeaways from those events were ones that have helped you through this period. And I think it's interesting what you said about the digital skills, because that's certainly something our sector knows that we need more of. But, you know, I mean, obviously you're very interested in marketing and that side of the industry, but there will be other young people out there who studying tourism who might think, well, yeah, I've got digital skills, but I don't want to go into marketing. So how do you think the skills that they have got during university might help them right now?
I think one of the key things, especially about doing a tourism or hospitality degree, is that you get a lot of transferable skills and you get the opportunity to work on your own in a team, you know, a very varied skill set you develop from a tourism or hospitality degree. And throughout your degree, you'll start to realize what you like and what you don't like. And if you are more creative or you're more analytical, have a look at roles that, you know, require someone who's really creative or really analytical, because there are roles out there. It's just about going and finding them. Yeah.
And so you mentioned LinkedIn. Perhaps you could give some advice to people in your position about how best they can use LinkedIn. And also, as you well know, Future You often drums in the thing about networking anyway. Other tips you have for young people around networking outside of LinkedIn as well?
So in terms of LinkedIn, to start with, I would say get your profile up to date. Make sure it's got a picture and your recent work experience. So if someone is if you are looking for a job and someone is looking for someone with your skills and experience, they can see straight from your profile, you know, what you can offer, your skills, your knowledge, that sort of thing. I'd also say try and write some posts about things you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be about your degree, but maybe things you've got involved in or things that you've done yourself, just to kind of get you active and get you visible on the platform. If you have loads of connections and you never post anything, you'll never be able to build those relationships in the same way. And then you obviously mentioned networking as well. I think the biggest thing about networking is don't be afraid to reach out to people and, you know, explain to them, you know, I'm a recent graduate, I'm looking for a job, I'd love to go into, you know, work for your company or go into a similar role to what you're doing. Do you have any tips, or what advice would you give me? Because from my experience, people are more than happy to help. They actually really want to share their, you know, they really want to help you, want to share their knowledge and experience with you. So definitely don't be afraid to just reach out and take the leap, and it will pay off.
That's brilliant. So you've obviously been very proactive on LinkedIn and reaching out to people, and as you said, attending lots of webinars and various online events, which again is a challenge. In terms of skills that you think people might need to be reviewing as they come out of this pandemic and we go into what the future workforce and world of work will look like, which will be slightly different, I'm sure. Are there any skills you think people should be concentrating on and maybe taking advantage of this sort of downtime to hone?
You've already mentioned digital skills, but potentially digital skills that maybe aren't so lots of people, I would say, can, you know, go and set up a social media page and develop social media marketing skills. But what about the other skills like coding or website building that you could look into and maybe give it a go for yourself? Adaptability, definitely, and flexibility as well. I know they're quite similar, but being able to adapt to things that change quickly, being flexible to them as well. So yeah, definitely.
I have to say those are two extremely important skills throughout your career, and specifically in tourism as well, because you do need to be flexible, and you have to be able to adapt and change very quickly in this industry. And so, sort of moving on, you've been keeping your eye out. You said you were lucky enough to get some work volunteering, as it was, with the company doing social media. What have you done since, and what's next for Georgia?
So even when I was volunteering, I was applying for jobs. I kind of started with big companies and grad schemes, and found it really difficult to get anywhere with those. I guess they have so many applicants that you're a very small fish in a very big sea. And then I've kind of narrowed my search down, looking at more local companies, smaller companies, or larger companies that are based near me, and mainly looking at digital marketing, social media marketing, or marketing roles. And I actually had an interview last week for a digital marketing assistant role, and I got the job. So that's really, really
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant news. And are you starting with them soon?
Yeah, I'm starting next Monday. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a long time job searching, and it's just a relief to have finally secured something, and something that I know that I'm going to really enjoy.
Oh, that's fantastic. I can't wait to watch the rest of your career, Georgia. I have no idea, no doubt at all that it will be very bright, and that you will definitely be going places. And as we finish, and thank you very much for your honesty, I just wanted to ask you if you could give one piece of advice to people who are probably in the same situation as you, or maybe people who are coming to the end of their tourism. They may have just started their final year, or they may have just started their first year and thinking, oh gosh, have I chosen the right degree? What's going to happen? What would you say to them?
I would say diversify your skill set. As I kind of mentioned earlier, you get a lot of transferable skills from your degree, but try and diversify your skills and knowledge. Look where you can use those skills, or where you can develop your knowledge, so that when you come to the end of university, you have maybe a plan A and a plan B. And at the moment, tourism is probably your plan B because it's on the back seat, but look into other options and get a plan for yourself, because you'll feel a lot more confident, and having something like that in place, you know where you're going and you know what you're working towards.
Brilliant. Georgia, I wish you all the luck in the world with the new job. As I said, can't wait to see where your career takes you. I hope it stays with tourism. I have no doubt that you will be a great asset to our wonderful sector, which will bounce back. We will be back stronger and better than ever, I'm sure. So thank you for speaking with ITT Future You today. And yes, all the very best of luck for next week.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.